I am the Reverend Micheal Megahan. I work with Lutheran Bible Translators. I work as a Bible translation consultant in East Africa, Tanzania, and just finished completing a Bible in Southern Africa in the country of Botswana. The last trip I made to Africa was more or less a very sudden trip. I went back in June of this year. The primary purpose was, in Thanksgiving and praise to God, I received a resident permit and a work permit, which now allows me to go in and out of Tanzania as a resident, basically, for the next 2 to 3 years. Well, most of our work is actually done on site because we need to sit down and build relationships with people and have dialogue as we go through the checking. That is, when I do the checking of a book of the Bible or portions of a book of the Bible, we go through it, look at all the aspects, the features, the linguistics, as well as how they're understanding it. So it needs a lot of face-to-face contact with them. It just requires a lot of on-site visitations 3 or 4 times a year. Once or twice a month, I meet with the team online for several hours, checking their work for that month, for the previous 2 months or so, depending on how much work they've done. But the idea is that maybe once a month I could sit with them online and deal with what work they've done and just double check it, make sure they're progressing well, there's no problems, needs some corrections in maybe their grammar or their word choices, things like that we can do. Then when they're finished with a book, I like to go over to the site and sit down there for, depending on which book it is, maybe a whole week and just discuss the book verse by verse and all of its aspects, make sure everything's clean and ready for printing. I will be leaving for Tanzania on the 23rd of September, and I will be there for 2 weeks. We have set the goal of finishing the entire book of Leviticus and having it ready for printing, and then doing about the first half of Exodus in preparation for printing. Having to do the work and the traveling, there's costs for my ministry, part of my ministry, and that cost around $3,000 to $4,000 per trip. So you figure $3,000 to $4,000 3 times a year minimum, and then of course a stipend for the office work I do and things like that here in the States. And so, of course, donations to the ministry, which can be done either online or through checks or whatever, however people would like to donate. Those are all very welcome and needed, because I can't go overseas without the airfare and things like that. And prayer, lots of prayer for the team as they work and for the networks, so that we can make sure we correspond on a weekly or monthly basis. Generally, for LBT, Lutheran Bible Translators, there are vast needs for many projects, as well as the home office. Most of our work is done in Concordia, Missouri, at the office by volunteers, but we do have a paid staff and other people that do a lot of travel. There's probably 6 or 7 people in positions like my position, as well as helping some of the overseas teams. There are projects overseas, buildings that we need for office space, computers, things like that. There's a lot of needs, so you can always contact Lutheran Bible Translators through their online lbt.org and find out what needs there are, whatever their missionaries there are, things like that. Thank everybody every day. I would love to be able to come and even visit every congregation, every individual, to say personally thank you for the donations and the prayers that you give to me personally. If you go on like LBT site, there's actually a place where you can go to every missionary and click on like Micheal Megahan, and there's a little place, donate now, things like that. And they actually find out more information about our ministry. You can get our newsletter, our prayer letter online, which tells about each trip. After I make it, I send out a newsletter. And then you could also go to different sites on the LBT menu and find places to either correspond with LBT, correspond with missionaries, or purchase promotional materials for your congregation, bulletin inserts, all kinds of things. So, but the major thing is that I don't know how to say thank you outside of just thank you, because it is a wonderful blessing for us to do this work, reaching several 100,000 people in each group that we work with God's Word.